I know it's really cynical and miserable of me to be disappointed when I see this kind of report, but I get so annoyed at hearing the unprecedented summer that Arsenal are trying to have. Let's show you where this comes from. Arsenal's own aggregating Sammy Mockbell's news, and by the way, nothing on Sammy Mockbell or Arsenal's own, they're just bringing us the news. But the fact that the club are briefing in some way that there is a burgeoning, I don't know how to pronounce that word, I don't know that word, sense at Arsenal that they are gearing up for an unprecedented summer window. When I hear this, I think, yeah, well, it better be. But why have we kicked back the transfers to later, to another time, 6 months down the line? Because this work piles up. The solutions to the problems are rarely found internally. Very, very infrequently do you just solve these problems without actually dipping into the market. So Arsenal have to do something extraordinary this summer, but that's not going to be easy. And in this video, I want to analyse and illustrate exactly why by bringing you potential signings, by bringing you my thoughts on the squad, and showing at the end what a really, truly unprecedented, ambitious window should be looking like from Arsenal. Am I hopeful? Not really, but let's go through everything that I've done. Sorry, by the way, for anyone watching this thinking, my word, he sounds down about it. I am. I'm still frustrated about the January window, and I think as we go more into this, you're going to understand why. Here are the potential summer exits for the summer of 2025, and a lot of them explain themselves. Neto's loan's going to end. Karl Hein wants to be a first teamer. Tomiyasu, Tierney, Zinchenko and Kivior all have injury problems and aren't first teamers and are likely going to go. Partey, Jorginho haven't been offered a new contract. Vieira is on loan at the moment. What are the chances that he stays to be a first teamer next year? Sterling, we know that the loan ends. Nelson is likely going to want to get first team football somewhere. Leandro Trossard was linked with the move at the end of last summer. And Gabby Jesus, I mean, he's not going to leave, but we can't count on him for next season as part of the squad either, simply because of the injury problem he's got. But yes, he may come back for the second half of the campaign. So what does that look like from a squad perspective? Let's go to the tactical panel. We've got everyone lined up here. In the goalkeepers, defence, midfield and attack, these are Arsenal's essentially players as we end this season and look at who's coming back, essentially who we're losing personnel-wise that we can rely on. Well, Neto's going to go and Hein too, in my opinion. You make your way through the defenders. I think there's a good chance Tomiyasu goes. Kivior, Tierney and Zinchenko. And those are the defenders you are left with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you've got a midfield here where you're probably going to lose Partey. You're probably going to lose Jorginho, and I think Vieira will go to, whether it's some sort of loan, whether it's, I don't know, a permanent sale, we'll see. Then the front line, we know Raheem Sterling. Jesus isn't someone we can depend on starting next season. Nelson's likely going to go. And then Trossard or Martinelli is an interesting one. I put Trossard in the list. I think it will be him. I'd give Martinelli one more go with a proper good dynamic attacking outfit that he can benefit from too. So there you have it. That is a lot of players gone and the squad starts to feel very bad. Now, of course, we're not going to lose all those players, but those are the players that have a chance of leaving. And it just shows you how many players we can actually rely on and depend on to be a part of the squad next season. So let's go through what these likely targets could be then in the summer of 2025. I've got a goalkeeper, a left-footed defender, a defensive midfielder, an all-round midfielder, an attacking midfielder. Yes, 3 midfielders. I think we're going to need 3. A left winger and a striker. I mean, that is a lot of work to do. It's an extraordinary amount of work because we can't really compromise on any of those areas. The goalkeeper, you can get a half-decent one who you can rely on as a backup, and the left-footed defender, sure, maybe just needs to be a part of the squad. Everything else from the 3 midfielders and 2 forwards, I think need to bring some sort of quality and need to be players you can legitimately rely on, because Arsenal's problem this season hasn't just been actual quality of the first 11, it's been depth, and it's actually been strength in depth, being able to rotate and feeling good about the players you're rotating with. So I've compiled a list of players that suit those particular profiles and players that we need. And when you're looking at it, you're going, well, who have we been linked to? Who are potentially half-sensible signings? And it's difficult to find the kind of more conservative transfer fees, the players that feel like they're somewhat realistic, and still keep the fee to about under £300 million for the summer. Let me show you what I mean. Here's our summer 2025 potential signings. Now, Johan Garcia, if we pay his release clause, that's a £25 million player there. In terms of left-footed defender, we've been linked with Joel Hato. Could we get him this summer? You're looking looking at, again, about £40 million for a really exciting young defender coming through the Ajax Academy and someone who Arsenal would want to bring in to add squad depth at left back and centre back. Zubimendi is going to be a £51 million signing. Then I've gone for Sver Nipan because I think at 18, turning 19 next season, he doesn't, have to be the finished article, but could play a part in the squad and is a talented player at £10 million. Julian Brandt, £30 million. Why have I gone for him? I've just thought of any kind of attacking midfielder that we've been linked to over the years. Someone who is a right footer, is quite dynamic in possession, can carry the ball, is going to, I think, complement Ødegaard. His contract expires a year from this summer, and he's valued on Transfermarkt at about £35 million. So I think 30 million is probably a fair fee. Let me know in the comments if I'm delusional and I'm wrong about that. Semenyo, 50 million. Yeah, I mean, maybe not even 50, maybe even more. And Benjamin Sesko at 70. Now, with those fees, I've tried to go low as possible for those kind of players. You're still looking around £276 million. If you lose a load of those players that I've just listed and you've got to replace a lot of them, that is the kind of total tally you're looking at. Now, I think Arsenal can be smarter, but you still have to do something pretty exceptional in this window to address a lot of those positions and to add actual quality and get you to a level where we're going, what does unprecedented mean? We're talking doing something that gets the fans going, okay, because see that list of players there? I'm not trying to be hypercritical here. I don't know if adding those players makes me go, yeah, we're title favourites. I look at that list and go, yeah, we'd be significantly better for having those. And I don't know if there is a window where you can necessarily bring in the players that makes you title favourites, but a window that gets you really excited off your feet and going, wow, okay, we've added some serious talent. I think you're going to have to spend potentially more, but you can be clever in other ways. So let's go back to the tactical pad and show you who I would keep there for, knowing that we've got all this work to do. I'd keep Tomiyasu, and I know that he's got injury problems. Some of you are probably saying, why not Kivior? I think Tomiyasu feels him better as a Saliba backup, and I think it's about keeping quality here too, which is why I'd also keep Zinchenko. Now, the thing I'd say about these players is Zinchenko and Tomiyasu might be more injury prone than Kivior, but I think they're better players. I think we need to have a certain floor that we won't go below in terms of quality, and I think Kivior can be more out of his depth, I think, for the level we're trying to get to, whereas Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, I think, can play more to the level we want to be at, but they're just less available because of the injury problems. So I would therefore add these players. Here's my summer 2025 dream signings whilst keeping it somewhat realistic. Justin Bilo, a goalkeeper, can come in. I think he's at Feyenoord, £10 million. I'd bring him in. Why not? Just to be a backup. He's been linked to the move to the Premier League before, and Arsenal have been linked as well. Martin Zubimendi, do that deal, £51 million. We really need a six, and he's one of the most sought after in world football. I'd press ahead with the Sver Nipan deal. I think, like I mentioned, a young player who can come in, do a job in the squad, I think is needed. And then, probably all laughing at me, but Florian Wirtz. Now, £90 million, you're probably thinking, James, he's probably going to be 105. Sure, fine. Either way, it's going to be an expensive, massive outlay on a player, but I think we really, really need this type of player. Right-footed creator, takes the creative burden off Ødegaard. I'd be looking to move Ødegaard to the left 8 a little bit more, having Wirtz as the right 8 with Rice, but then you're going to have a box-to-box sometimes with Rice and Zubimendi. We'll talk about that in a bit, but basically, I think you can have a really nice balance of quality midfielders in there. I know that's a lot to add, a Zubimendi and a Wirtz, but we're talking about an unprecedented summer, right? A summer where we're going to do everything now because we didn't in January, we didn't in the summer. Yeah, it feels like we're playing Football Manager and being a bit unrealistic here, but this is what unprecedented means to me when you look at the work that needs to be done and the work that hasn't been done. His contract expires, Wirtz, in 2 years from this summer. He hasn't signed a new one as far as I'm aware, though he might. I think a 90 to 100 million, so that's what it's going to cost. I pay the Nico Williams release clause at 48 million, and I pay the Gyökeres release clause at 63 million pounds too, and that takes you to a total of 272 million pounds. So back to the tactical pad, let's add these players, and I think these are your goalkeepers. Setford as your number 3, Bilo and Raya. And look, well, I'm no expert on how good Setford will be in the future and what Bilo is going to bring. I think that's probably a sensible set of goalkeeping options. Then I think your defenders are there. So you've got Timber and White, Saliba, Tomiyasu, I think, is the backup to Saliba. There we go. You've got Gabriel, Calafiori can be a left centre-back if needed, and you've got Zinchenko and Lewis Skelly fighting it out at left-back too. And you've got two inverted left-backs who will do pretty much the same role. I think if we just fit that in a little bit better, I think those are pretty decent defensive options for Arsenal there. You know, there's two for each position, 8 players. I think you're covered. Rice could drop in if you have to. I think you're good there. Now in midfield, I mentioned that you had a Zubimendi, you had a Nipan, and you had a Wirtz. So the crucial thing is understanding Waneri's squad role for the future. I'd move him to the forward line, and we'll talk about him in a little bit more detail in a sec. But I'd have Zubimendi and Rice as your 6s. I'd have Marino and Ødegaard as your 8. I mean, look, the reality is that Rice is going to play as a box-to-box if Zubimendi comes too, because Ødegaard's not going to be dropped. But then I'd just have these as your options too. Wirtz in there as well. Nipan as the young player. 6 players that you're excited about. Marino can simply fill in as a 6 as well if needed. In fact, let's swap him over to sort of illustrate that a little bit. There we go. You got Marino, Rice and Zubimendi can be your 6s. Wirtz, you know, Ødegaard, Nipan can be your more creative players. You've got one younger creator in there. Waneri can also play in midfield as a creative type if he needs. And you've got, like I said, 3-4 defensive midfield options. 2 can play as a box-to-box and with Marino and Rice if you need to be a little bit more solid. And I think there's good options there. And then you had Williams and you had Gyökeres. And why do I want Williams and Gyökeres? Because they're more proven. One's a Euros winner. The other, you know, has been scoring goals for fun in the Champions League and in Portuguese football. And then I think it looks something like this. With Williams, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Havertz, Waneri and Saka as your forward options there. And that, for me, is an unprecedented window with 6 players added that can genuinely take Arsenal a massive step forward. You might all think this is unrealistic, and it probably is. But this video isn't it's not about me sitting here saying, Arsenal, I demand this. I demand you sign these players. I demand that you spend 300 million, and I demand that this is the squad that we end up with at the end. I think this is possible if you're legitimately ambitious, but I think the bigger point here at play is that this is me trying to illustrate why missing out on what we had to do in the summer, missing out on what we had to do in January, and then saying, well, we're going to do something unprecedented in the summer, means that you're maybe going to have to keep some players you don't necessarily want to keep, and you're going to have to be really kind of clever in the market and still it's a fine line. How do you balance clever but ambitious? More often than not, they don't go hand in hand. But I think this is the type of squad Arsenal need to end up with at the end of all this. They need to end up with something that suggests, let's swap Nipan back over, there we go. I think they need to end up with something that suggests, yeah, we've gone big, we've got a range of profiles, we've got real quality added, we've got some proven quality from Europe, and it's a squad that I think gets Arsenal fans excited. But am I hopeful we're going to do this? I don't know. It's February. By the time, you know, June comes around, a lot of us have forgotten about all this. But we need to make sure we don't. We need to make sure that we kind of keep this, you know, the club. We need to hold them to the standards that they've set when reports like this come out, but also the standards they've set by not doing the business they had to do back in the last 2 windows. Am I crazy? Probably. But this is now what I'm expecting of Arsenal, and I'm not the most demanding of fans. I'm not the most unrealistic. But I just think it's what it's going to take for Arsenal fans to feel like they want to go again in a 4th title race, for these players like Saka, Saliba to feel like they want to commit for another year, and for the rest of the Premier League to take notice and go, wow, they're coming into this with a serious squad. A lot of work to do. That's the point I'm trying to make. Let me know in the comment section below if there's any players I've missed out on that could be a part of this unprecedented summer, and let's see what Arsenal do. But for now, we've got a Premier League campaign, a Champions League campaign to compete in.